They called us slaves. The word dripped from their mouths like acid, a reminder of chains that dug into wrists, collars that sparked with pain, and whips that cracked across our backs. We had been stolen from Earth centuries ago, scattered across their empire like seeds in barren soil, forced to work in mines that devoured lives and fields that broke bodies. To the Veythari, humanity was nothing but expendable labor, soft flesh tools bred to obey. They thought us broken. They thought us weak. They thought wrong. The spark began in the dust pits of Thaler Prime. An overseer, impatient with an exhausted human child, struck her across the face and sneered. Slave. Crawl faster. Her father, gone from hunger yet burning with a fire that starvation could not extinguish, lunged forward. He seized the overseer's weapon, turned it in one smooth motion, and drove it to the alien's throat. For a moment, silence reigned. Then a dozen humans leapt, their chains becoming weapons, their voices raw with fury. Blood stained the dust. And from that instant, we were no longer slaves. We were warriors. Word spread faster than their patrols could silence it. Across mining colonies, human uprisings ignited like sparks across dry grass. Shackles became cudgels, pickaxes became halberds, and stolen rifles sang in human hands. At first, the Veythari laughed. They called our rebellion pathetic, a tantrum of livestock. But they underestimated the hatred of a people who had endured centuries of humiliation. Every human carried in their heart a ledger of cruelty, and we had been tallying debts far too long. When the 1st Veythari Battalion marched to crush us, they brought war beasts, plasma weapons, and armored walkers. We brought nothing but stolen fire and rage. They thought it would be a slaughter. They were right, but not in the way they expected. The Battle of Ash Plains defined us. Thousands of us stood against their glittering legions, barefoot and ragged, faces painted with soot, hearts steady. We had no shields, no armor, but we had each other, and a fury that could burn stars. The commander of the Veythari looked down at us from his hover chariot and sneered, "Bow! Slaves or burn!" His words were prophecy. We did burn, but not as victims. When the first line of soldiers advanced, we lit the fields. Oil stolen from their depots soaked the ground, and fire erupted in waves, cutting through their war beasts like knives through flesh. Their disciplined ranks dissolved into chaos as flames swallowed machines and flesh alike. And into that chaos we charged, screaming, swinging chains wrapped in fire, hurling makeshift bombs. The Veythari had never faced prey that bit back. Their arrogance shattered as their glittering legions broke and fled, leaving behind blackened armor and corpses charred to bone. We had turned their armies to ash. From that day, humanity's name spread across the stars not as slaves, but as the Fireborn. They whispered of us with fear. They claimed we wielded forbidden magic, that flame bent to our will, that we were demons in human skin. But there was no sorcery, only strategy, unity, and the unbreakable will to never kneel again. The rebellion became a war. For every world that rose, 10 more followed. Human slaves broke their chains and sent them back as nooses around their masters' throats. Colonies once quiet now roared with the thunder of battle. The Veythari grew desperate, deploying entire fleets to crush us. But the more they fought, the stronger we became. For every human they killed, a dozen more rose, driven by vengeance. They burned our villages. We burned their cities. They took our children, we took their generals, and the fire spread. I remember one battle most vividly, the siege of Spire, a fortress said to be impenetrable, its walls of steel fused with stone, guarded by legions who had never known defeat. They jeered when they saw us gathering, ragtag humans in scavenged armor, faces gaunt, weapons crude. They thought the siege would last months, that our spirit would wither. Instead, we ended it in a single night. While their soldiers feasted, believing us cowed, we scaled their cliffs with torches strapped to our backs. Hundreds of us climbed in silence, the night hiding our approach. And then, at the signal, every torch was cast into the wind. Oil-soaked banners ignited, cascading down the spire's walls in rivers of flame. Their fortress became their tomb. Trapped inside, they burned as we sang, not in cruelty, but in mourning for the years they had stolen from us. By dawn, Kara's spire was nothing but smoke. The Veythari Empire had ruled for millennia, but humanity, once broken, now tore through it like wildfire. World by world, their armies fell. Fleet by fleet, their admirals surrendered. They had thought us beasts of burden, yet we fought with cunning they had never seen. They had thought us tools, yet we became a weapon sharper than any they could forge. They had thought us slaves, yet we carve into history a truth written in blood and fire. No chain can bind humanity forever. I was there when the last Veythari Emperor stood before us, trembling. His once proud armor hung loose on his frame, his crown dented, his eyes hollow. He whispered, "Why, you were ours. You were nothing." I leaned close so he could hear the voice of every human who had ever suffered, every mother who had wept, every child who had starved, every father who had fallen with fists clenched. "We were never nothing," I said. "We were waiting." And with that, the fire rose one final time, consuming his palace, his throne, his legacy. When the smoke cleared, humanity stood free. Across the ashes of their empire, we built something new. Not a kingdom of conquerors, not an empire of chains, but a brotherhood of survivors. Our banners carried no crowns, no symbols of power, only the flame, eternal and unyielding, a reminder of what we had endured and what we would never allow again. They called us slaves. Now the galaxy calls us liberators, warriors, legends, but we remember the truth. We are simply human. And when humanity burns, nothing in the universe can stand against the fire.